You're tuning into the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, where we explore the past holistic well-being, personal growth, and living a fulfilling life. Each episode, we bring you insightful conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories to help you integrate your mind, body, and spirit on your journey to becoming your best self. Let's dive in and embark on this journey together. And welcome back to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill, joined by my sister, clinical hypnotherapist, certified life coach, and yoga instructor, Tara O'Neill. Hi, Tara. Today, we're thrilled to have Hunter Chynoweth with us today, also known as the Gen Z mentor. As a CEO of Best Self Academy, Hunter is on a mission to help people break through mental barriers and unlock their full potential. The impressive resume that includes running 30 marathons and 8 ultra marathons, transforming his own life through fitness and mindset mastery, and mentoring countless individuals, Hunter brings a fresh and inspiring perspective on personal growth. Today, we hope to explore how he empowers others to become the best version of yourself, which syncs right in with Journey to Your Best Self and Your One Self, and kind of delve into some of his thoughts on the unique challenges and opportunities facing Gen Z. So without any further ado, Hunter, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much, Brian and Tara. It's a pleasure to meet both of you. I'm very excited. I've seen your podcast and Instagram and just very impressed. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited that you have such a wonderful, fresh, and inspiring energy. I want to just jump right in and go right into discipline. So we talked for a second off camera about discipline, and that, can you tell the audience what that means to you and where did you get it from, right? So you've done all these things. It takes discipline to do all that you've done. And how does it have to not be like a dirty word or a heavy word, that it actually can be wonderful and we can have a good relationship with discipline?
Right. Yeah. Great question. Well, just to get right into it, I truly believe that discipline is essential. It's crucial to become the best versions of ourselves. And it doesn't matter if, you're trying to improve spiritually or, with your fitness, your health, or even your relationships. I think discipline is something that just falls under every single area of life. And it doesn't have to be this big dramatic thing, like you kind of said, like you kind of asked about. It doesn't have to be, you have to go out and run 50 miles. You have to go do all these ice baths. Like, of course, I like to do those things, but it doesn't have to be like that crazy dramatic thing. It can be simply, kind of adhering to a plan that requires any type of a commitment. And that's kind of my definition. And I truly believe if we can possess or develop this ability to do difficult things, then we are going to feel a lot happier, more productive. And really, I feel like we'll be led by our intuitions even more, those things that we're supposed to be led to. I really feel like it strengthens our mind and our ability to kind of be led on that path we're supposed to be on, if that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. And like, just to highlight, what really spoke to me is having a plan and committing to it, right? And so it can be that simple. Like whether it's you want to drink a glass of water every morning or run a marathon, that's beautiful. Thank you for giving us a little jump start into the conversation.
Yeah, and to give some background, listeners and the audience members, did you have a mentor, your family, an uncle, dad, or an aha moment? Because you seem to have, even at your age, a seasoned perspective on this, right? It's not like something you just picked up a couple of months ago. So was there someone early on that was starting to instill this stuff in you, or did you just, have a calling? How did it all start for you to get into this space?
Great question. That's a wonderful question, Brian. So what I talk a lot about Gen Zs with, and it's so cool because we were kind of the first generation to grow up with technology so advanced. Like I believe a lot of us have had Instagram since 12 years old, since fifth grade, around my age. And I connect with a lot of entrepreneurs and I'm like, how did you learn the skills to be a barber? How did you learn these skills to sell and communicate so well? And 90% of the time, it's all about YouTube. It's technology. And I just had a wonderful conversation with someone my age who owns their own SEO company. And we talked about discipline. And I'm like, do you pay a lot for mentors? He's like, no, I use YouTube. I watch David Goggins. I watch Andy Frisella, the CEO of First Form. I can name all of them right now. But in terms of who has mentored me, I've had some mentors that I paid money for, and they've been wonderful, and they have great programs. But YouTube is such a wonderful tool. We have access to all this technology as well as self-improvement books. So I've just, really learned from self-improvement books as well as YouTube. And I have had some experiences in my life where just powerful conversations. But the thing with me is, I believe that all of us, you know, there's someone in all of our lives, maybe at one point, that just makes us feel good, whether it's our grandpa, whether it's a coach that believed in us, just a good influence. And when we talk to them, we just feel good. And we've had an experience in our life that maybe gives us goosebumps and makes us feel like we're meant for more. And I specifically, to answer your question, I had a basketball coach that he just believed in me. He believed in me. And I ended up having a really successful season when I was in like 14 and like 15 years old. And he would make us run so much. Every basketball season, I'd lose 30 pounds because we'd run and run and run. And his practices were no joke. And he believed in me. And he was the greatest mentor that I've had. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I work hard, like it just feels good to work hard. I remember coming home from practice, just working my tail off. And I'm like, it feels weirdly so good to lay here in my bed. And I'm so tired. Like, I don't, I'm too tired to be lazy and eat junk food. I just kind of want to be healthy. So to answer your question, the one person who I felt like I've had who truly believed in me and saw a little potential and pushed me was my coach named Ernie DeMonico here in Las Vegas. Phenomenal basketball coach and mentor.
Awesome. Yeah. But to go back earlier to what you were saying, one of the things that I do, I guess if you would consider, which I do, YouTube, a social media platform, one of the things that I like about it is that, it's really created for like long form, right? I mean, shorts now are very popular, but it's less about like kind of just quick scrolling through and like everything 30 seconds or less. There's a lot of where you can really get into the substance of things and listen to talks and really delve deep into stuff. But it is a flooded space in some ways. YouTube's one of the most heavily traffic sites out there, and there's a lot of creators. What are some of the tells? What are some of the things that you look for that you automatically can distinguish people that are worth putting your time into listening to and worth following and worth liking and subscribing from the charlatans where it's more style than substance? How does Hunter, and how can you recommend to people, this is how you find out someone's legit? Or is there a way to do it? Do you have to just figure it out over time? Is there something there where you can identify who's worth listening to and then looking up to and who's not?
Yeah, great question. I think it comes down to really knowing yourself and your core values, knowing what you stand for to make sure that you align with whatever type of content it is, but you're totally right. There's, YouTube, there's some videos that are very long and it's like, is it worth it to give my energy and time on this random person? But, we go through different stages in life, and I'll give you one right now. I'm set on my discipline and, masculine mentors. I got David Goggins. I love to watch his stuff, and Andrew Tate. I like to watch his stuff. Those are my mentor type of masculine things. But I'm trying to learn a new skill right now, which is sending messages out on social media. And that's something that I don't really, setting appointments right before hopping on calls to try to grow your business. And I don't know that world at all. I don't know who the best is. And I'm watching a random 19-year-old who claims that he's made, 400K doing this. And I don't know if that's true, but to answer your question, like I'm taking the gamble and I'm trusting my intuition, making sure everything aligns with what he's saying, but I think an example of this though is when I was really trying to learn how to sell. There's so many sales guys, and there's some that are so pushy, some that are very aggressive, and there's some that are more laid back. And after trial and error of watching a few different guys, finally found someone who sells in my type of, I guess, vibe, who's like just ask questions, who's laid back, isn't so forced, So I guess really you have to, it's like with everything, just experience the bad influencers, the good, but once you find with something, you kind of know, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
the Goldilocks. You have to try all of the different ones to find the one that's just right for you. So
Yeah.
my next question is a little bit similar. So I suffer from shiny object syndrome. So sometimes I'll go from one YouTube video to the next, or even books, even self-help books. Like I'll start four different books at once, and then I'm kind of like chaotic. Do you have any tips for so? Because I do know a lot of entrepreneurs, self-employed people, they struggle with this,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of different tasks. So in
Mhm.
terms of discipline or a tip of, say that you do have that one YouTube video that you're committing to or that book that you're committing to, do you have like a time limit? Okay, I'm going to do 30 minutes of this book each day, or I'm not going to read any other book or not watch any other video until I'm finished with this. How do you use your intuition while having discipline and not like, ooh, I feel like doing this next. Ooh, I feel like doing that next. So is there a balance? And does that make any sense to you in your situation or the people that you work with? And what might you suggest?
Yeah, Tara. Well, shiny object syndrome. Alex Armozy talks a lot about that, and so does my wife. Her name is Victoria, and she's a wonderful entrepreneur. She has her own PR business, and she's amazing. And I will come to her, I'm like, Victoria, I have this new idea. I can do this. She's like, no, like, of course, if you want to do it, yes. Shiny object syndrome. Do not like, because she's a master. You go in her office, library, like every self improvement book. Well, we always talk about this frequently, like shiny object syndrome. Just know what you want and focus on it. And it's so tempting, Tara and Brian, to it's so tempting to just like try to do other things to put your energy on different things. I definitely go through that, and I struggle to focus. That's my biggest weakness. To answer your question, and it's something I have to overcome every day. But this is what I recommend. It's they're earmuffs. They're to shoot guns, and you put them on, and that's how you focus. That's how I focus. That's what I recommend. I mean, you asked me, and that's what I have to do to focus. That's how bad my ability is to focus. And I mean, I see the positive in it because it's hard for me to focus. It strengthens my intuition. But it took me a while, took me my whole life, 24 years almost, to realize if I put these earmuffs on and then I try to read and then I try to do my to-do list, the questions of, okay, should I read this book again and reread it and apply it to my course? Should I do this one? Like those voices just they shut off. And I'm like, one thing at a time, just one thing at a time, just read this. And like that stress goes away, believe it or not. But I go through the same thing, Tara, especially reading self-improvement books. Sometimes I'll read one and I'll read just one little paragraph, and that makes me think for 1 hour and just ponder. Sometimes I'll read 20 pages. I'm like, nothing was worth highlighting. Why? Should I reread it? But I one of the habits I try to do every day is I start my morning off by sitting in silence and reading for 1 hour and writing down what I read in a Google Doc or in my journal. So that's one habit that I try to do. I put the headphones on and I'm like, I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna sit here and read. And if I'm too busy and I don't complete the hour, then I'm like, okay, I don't get to read anymore. That's my fault. I didn't do it. It's on to the next morning routine thing. So the goal is to read for 1 hour every day and take notes about what I read, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's huge. And I similarly, I'll jot down like I'll do a whole book like, or what are the five most important points. So then when I will go back to read it, I'm like, okay, let's review if that's relevant to what's going on. So I try to associate it. But I love that because also it's probably a sense of accomplishment too. It's like, oh, and it helps relearn, right? When you write down or you take notes and summarize yourself in your own words. So that's an excellent tip. But thank you for normalizing it, right? So
For sure.
your success is helping other people. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your story and some of the things that you've overcome? And you're so young, right? Which is a wonderful thing. Like that's amazing. I'm sure there are people that are like, I wish I did that when I was younger. But can you say that it didn't just come like, and you have throughout this show, you've been saying that you've struggled with things, so you are human. So we think you're human, but can you share some of the struggles?
Yeah, one of the struggles was, you know, start off with like a little bit of physical fitness. I mean, at one point I was really overweight. I was overweight and stepped on the scale and I was like, that's the heaviest I've ever been. Like I used to be some 3-sport athlete growing up, and it was just a few years ago. And that's when I really wanted to make a change. And I I lived in South America for 2 years, just teaching and serving people, teach them about God. And it was like a thing that's from 6:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Sunday. It's like a really big dedication. You kind of have to wear like a suit and tie. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. But I had to have a companion, another man, and he was so skinny and he was a runner. He was a runner and he was so healthy, and I'm like, I was like, I kind of want to be like him. And he motivated me, and he's like, first day I met him, he's like, let's go on a run at 6:30 a.m. And I was like, okay, like I'm some athlete. Like I know I'm the heaviest I've ever been, but like this guy thinks he's tough. No way. Let's go do it. We go and run a mile, and a minute into it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never been this out of shape. I can't go. I can't go. And then long story short, we had to be companions for like 6 months. And within there, I tried to make it just a small habit to run like 5 times a week. And I noticed that he only ate very healthy. And I started to apply that. And at heart, it was, at first it was very hard. And I was able to drop 50 pounds in 4 months. And then I started thinking, well, what else can I do? And then in my mind, I was like, I really need a really strong woman to help me be the best version of myself. And at the time I was 22, and I sat down and I was like, what do I want? Like, what do I want in a woman? What do I want in a partner? And then I made a list. I learned about the law of attraction. I wrote down, I was like, I kind of see her in my mind, like black hair, mature, love self-improvement, go on and on. And then within a couple months, I was able to manifest her, and I came to Las Vegas and I randomly met her. I was only supposed to be here for one day. I was living in Utah. Then we got married 6 months later. And I was like, wow, power in my mind. What else can I do? And then I tried to start running a little bit before then, actually. And I just remember the feeling of working so hard to accomplish a 50-mile race I did in Nevada. And I finished it. And I was like, dang, like and as humans, we're so capable of doing so many wonderful things if we can just focus and stick with this discipline. So I finished the 50-mile race, and I was just like, I did all of that really without God's help. If I had God's help in my life, what else could I do? So I'm not saying you have to believe in God to be the best version of yourself. I just feel like that's part of what I need to do. And at the time, I wasn't being spiritual at all. My head wasn't screwed on straight. And I finished it, and I was like, what if I really committed to being the best version of myself? And I actually tried in all areas of my life. And then that's when it kind of hit me. I mean, I was like, I need to commit. I need to not look back. No, don't turn my head, look back in terms of being the best version of myself, and just kind of figuring out what it means from there. So to answer your question, that's kind of my experience. And then near like that same year, I got a running injury. So I was kind of forced to do new things and lift weights and find discipline in a different way. And I was able to gain 50 pounds of muscle, almost 60 in a year. Yeah, so I don't know.
That's like noob gains on like exponential noob gains there. I was going to ask you, side note, because I do see the vids of you lifting. What's the balance between, this is totally side note, but mind, body, spirit, that's the triad we talk about. So body question, balance between that affecting endurance and running, what's the plan, try to like be this hybrid person who lifts and still runs, or because runner's body obviously different than someone that's going to be doing the big three lifts and things like that.
Well, Brian, to be honest, I haven't been able to run for a year and a half.
Oh, dang.
I got in a
Is
car
it
accident.
your knee or what happened?
I wish it was just one. So I got in a car accident, and God protected us like crazy, but still everything happens for a reason. And I just developed other injuries. So I have like L5, 4, and 3 tears in my back, and then both hips have hip labrum tears, and then glute tendinosis on both sides.
Jesus.
But everything happens for a reason, and I feel like I had to get into new things, and it gave me opportunity to work more on the mental side of things and just figure out what I want in my life. Like I was only 23 when it happened, and I still didn't really know. Like I was kind of coaching and mentoring people, but then I'm like, wait, I kind of want to do some other things in business. So then I started my own PR company for a little bit, and that actually went well. And I needed to do that to get me the confidence to do this full time, if that makes sense.
I thought, Brian, you were going to ask the difference between, and you don't have, like, we don't have to go into this too much, but the difference between running on your mental focus and lifting weights on your mental focus. So or just in general, we don't even have to separate them, but I think that because there are high demands when you're working in as an entrepreneur in this type of work where you need to be self-motivated, when it's like, oh, do I work for an hour or do I work out for an hour, right? It's like money or health. But can you talk about how, whether it's working out, like running or going for a walk or breathing, like getting, the physical part, can you talk about the benefits that you've seen with that in your mental gains and your clarity and your focus?
Like, great question, Tara. Maybe you experience the same thing. I feel like, maybe you have, let's say you have 4 hours to work in the morning, but like if you think about it and you want to use all those 4 hours to work, I'm sure you can get a lot to do. You have your to-do list to do and be productive. But maybe if you take one of those hours to work out physically, go on a run, go on a walk, go to the gym, I don't know, do whatever you want. Or you do a mental exercise and you visualize and you journal and you really figure out what you want for 1 hour. And then now you only have 3 hours to work instead of 4. I guarantee that in those 3 hours, you're going to get a lot more done, or a lot more meaningful work done. I feel like chances are you will do something with more intention, some task that will pay off more than that long to-do list, is my opinion. I don't know if you agree with that. Have you ever experienced something like that?
Yeah, I do. I do. And I, like, for me, even if it's like I don't have low energy and I want to just do a light yoga class, like afterwards, I have more energy. I know sometimes I think in our modern society, we think we have to do like a HIIT class to get some sort of energy or clarity. But I think, like you said, a visualization, a meditation, some breathing, like though throughout the day, there'll be more meaningful inspiration, and it won't be that like hustle energy, like, oh, I gotta get this done, or like the resistance or the pushing. So yeah,
Right.
I definitely appreciate that. But
Yeah.
I do know that in the beginning, I always tell people, if working out, like getting, because I think in the beginning of our self-help or spiritual journey, getting some of that older junk in our system out is necessary. So maybe somebody needs to work out for, an hour and a half, or they have to do something a little bit more like, a kickboxing to get out some of their, aggression from growing up or something like that. So I do think everybody's in a different place. So, somebody that's just starting out on this journey might be a little bit different in having different needs. But yeah, I agree. I think, and just even if it was a meditation, a 10-minute meditation, like, oh, I don't have time. But that 10 minutes is going to buy you, a couple hours probably.
Oh yeah, I think you're so right. You're so right. And whatever it is, if it's a mental exercise, physical, something to strengthen your relationship, like sometimes I try to make my wife, if I make some eggs, I'll make my wife eggs. And that's usually around like 8:30, but I want to start working at 8. But I'm like, am I going to lose these 15 minutes? I'm like, no, like I feel a little bit of extra love in my heart, most of the time. Like I did something to strengthen a different area of my life that wasn't work kind of during the day, during work time. So I think it kind of relates to every area of life, in my humble opinion. So far, I've been able to experience that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's almost like too the notion of like working like time doesn't equal money, right? When you enter this a different paradigm of work, and the same thing is like is true in work. Like working hours doesn't mean more success or more productivity necessarily.
yeah, and just to kind of go off what you said
Yeah.
earlier right before that about getting it out of your system, one of my favorite things ever, and I think it's so funny, but it's so true. It's David Goggins on Joe Rogan a couple years ago, and he's like, as long as I can, get after it. David Goggins is like, as long as I can get a hardcore workout in the morning, get after it, get it out of my system, sweat it out. I don't care what my wife asks me to go do. I'm going to go do it and have the best attitude about it. If she wants to go shoe shopping, like I'll sit in that chair all day. She can try on as many shoes as she wants, but I'll be in a good mood knowing that I'm living up to my potential. And, because he's so big on physical fitness, I think that definitely applies. But I keep feeling that like it doesn't have to be physical fitness. We can still work out our brain. I believe like physical fitness is for sure very important, but it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be the hour-long kickbox. It can be just getting that vitamin D sunlight, breathing, just the simple things. And Brian, before the power thing went out, to answer your question, it's kind of a sensitive subject because I haven't been able to run for an hour or not an hour, a year and I keep thinking minutes, a year and a half, almost 2 years. And my goal was to run these hardest marathons in the world. And now that I'm lifting weights, like lifting weights just, it doesn't give me that same mental productivity.
Oh, wow.
It's the
The
running
runner's
thing.
high?
The runner's high, Jinx.
Yeah, the runner's high. Lifting weights is fun, but just that running does it for me. And I kind of start to swim. I started to swim a little, but it's just not the same. I don't know if you guys ever like experience something that if you do it, you're like, okay, like that hits my brain a little bit different. Do you guys ever experience something like that you just really like?
Yes, for me that like I can if I'm doing like a run and I get into that like meditative state, that's like my like runner's high. I wouldn't call it a run. Brian doesn't makes fun of my running because it's
Yeah.
more like a light jog, but still. But yeah, for me, yoga does that. I mean, it's a natural high for sure, and it's like I can ride that like feeling of well-being for a long time. I mean, that
Yeah.
is the intent of yoga, but the point is, yes, not everybody gets that, but for me, that would be yoga.
I got
About one thing that I had wanted to get to, we do a lot of, like I was saying, mind body spirit. We've had a bunch of kind of discussions and investigations into some more Eastern spirituality. We had one, the mysticism of Sufism. There's obviously Hindu and Buddhist influences on meditation and mindfulness and things like that. How did your experience with the like the Church of Latter-day Saints, you're Mormon? How did that prep you? Yeah, I feel like the more Western, like the Christianity and even like Judaism to a certain extent, maybe aren't delved into in this space as much because it's part of our culture. So maybe people think that they know enough about it that they don't need to do a deep dive. But how did that maybe help prep you for this journey that you're on now with the discipline, with the mission work? Obviously, I think that's just like amazing. I lived in Nevada for a while, and anyone that talks about having done their mission work, you could see how that changed them. So can you talk a little bit about how maybe the church gave you a foundation for being successful?
Yeah. Very interesting though, because I'm not going to sit here and act like this experience changed my life. I came home and I hit rock bottom and you know, so I don't want to sit here and act like, I learned these skills and immediately I was a changed man. I'm like, no, I came home and like, man, like went through something and started questioning my faith at one point, getting a bunch of weight, like you name it. Um, but it takes me a while to process things. And I think it just took me, as soon as I finished that 2-year mission, it took me probably a couple of years to really process everything. That makes sense. And the
Yeah.
things that I processed was, believe it or not, and it was just more learning about life. Yeah, I learned a lot about God and his influence and his power, but I learned because I was living in South America and we have like, a budget, and I was living in really terrible homes that were just so old. But then I was in some really nice places down in South America and Uruguay. It's kind of like wealthy in some parts, kind of not. And I was just like, number one thing I learned is in skills. It doesn't matter if I have a bunch of money. It doesn't matter if I have all these things or not. If I'm good with myself and my mindset, I can still be happy. Like, look at all these South American people. Some of them don't even have a front door, and they're so happy. And I'm like, if I can continually work on my mindset and I can still be happy, life can be very simple. I learned the importance of humility, right? And that was definitely something that kind of hit me after a couple years. And believe it or not, dressing nice. Looking back, people respect you when you dress nice and you have to wear a shirt and tie. And uh, man, like lately I've been trying to always wear a suit jacket. I'm 24, and luckily I found some good prices on these. Got an early Christmas present. It's hard to, like, when you're going up and down in weight, you don't really know what you want in the physical area. I go up and down, so I don't want to buy a lot of clothes, but luckily I just got a few new ones and dressing nice. And that seems like it's small, but when I go to the store, I notice that grown men that were way older than me and women, they would kind of get out of my way when I'm pushing the cart. I'd walk in and I'm dressed nice. And it just taught me, like, people look at you, people can feed off your energy when you dress a little bit nicer, when you have to shave every day. And I'm like, dang, like, some life skills here. And another thing is just people skills. I learned, like you guys are doing right now, the importance of people skills and how it's not that hard to please someone. Like, I feel like everybody wants to talk about themselves. And I had to learn Spanish, and my Spanish is the worst. It's terrible. But I learned it good enough to get people to ask people questions and to talk about themselves, and then use that to just connect with people. So I love podcasts. I love, like, the vehicle that it gets to connecting with people. So I just learned it's not that hard to just be nice, be humble. You really can just ask questions, get to know people, and then the importance of having a routine, because everything you have to do is has to be planned out. You have to read your scriptures for like an hour a day. So I realized, oh my gosh, if I can, like, keep these little promises to myself every day in my personal life, like, I'll also be happy. So if that answers some of your questions. I don't know if it did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. So just to recap, thanks for giving us so much great stuff. This is gold. So dressing well, listening to people and sticking to your routine. And, that dressing well, that actually, we haven't talked about that much really on here, but to me, what it says is, it's
Self-respect too.
self-respect, it's safety to other people. This person can take care of themselves, then they can probably also hold space for me and take care of me as well. And I know Brian dresses, he's a teacher and he doesn't have to wear a suit and tie, but he does. And, like, to me, that's like the epitome of showing up for himself and for his students and for his micro community. So that's beautiful. Like, thank you for reiterating. But I mean, also at the same time, like, if you're in a situation where you want to be more comfortable, I'm getting defensive of myself because I live in yoga pants. If you want to, like, curl up on the couch and sit Indian style and have a heart to heart with somebody, you might, throw on a sweatshirt. So to me, it also is that you are reading your audience, right? So you know who you're with, but ultimately, regardless of what you're wearing, you're listening. And what I got from what you were saying is listening, and something I'm working on, listening not to respond. Obviously, it's a podcast, so I do have to respond a little bit, but
Yeah.
in our interpersonal relationships, those meaningful relationships that we have with our family and loved ones and friends, it, like, really not responding or giving advice or judging or even thinking, like, let, like, your greater essence just be present with them and let them speak. And that's what I heard from you. So thank you for reminding us and our audience for that.
Yeah.
I want to ask,
No
Yeah,
problem.
I want to ask, and you can,
Can I say something, Tara, to
yeah,
go off quick? Okay, because I've been learning about this. It's the concept of, and it relates to self-respect. You are what you think. You are what you think. If you think you're important, you're going to be important. The man who believes he's important, even if he isn't, he is important. And he will act like that. He will schedule his day like that. He will dress like that. He will. And one thing that you said, you wanted to listen, not to just respond, but to listen. And when you think of you are what you think, how do you, like, when you communicate to other people? I notice, and I'm sometimes, it's a work in art. It's a long process to really master it. But just to be completely honest, I noticed that when some people would come up to talk to me, whether it's at church or a random stranger at the store or someone I don't know, I would do this thing where my voice gets high and I do this fake voice. And I'm like, it's kind of the same. I want to listen to, like, actually listen. I want to, like, I don't want to be fake. I want to be who I think I am. I want to be my normal self, and I want to talk like that. And I want to, when people talk to me, I want to respond in a way that it's just authentic. It's not just responding to respond. So I feel like you are who you think you are. And that kind of reflects in the way you talk, the way you walk, the way you dress, and so on and so forth.
yeah, and I think people can feel that energetically. They can, you can't fake authenticity, right? If you're like if you're trying to be present with somebody and you're like, oh, I really gotta go, I really gotta go, and you're thinking that, like, they probably to some extent can feel that. So that then thank you for clarifying that too. You are what you think
And
you
And I love wearing sweatshirts. I mean, I'm not saying you have to dress all the nice. I'm
are. I
serious.
know.
I love blankets and I love sweatshirts. After this call, when I don't have to be on camera anymore, I'm gonna take this off and put on a sweatshirt. So I'm not gonna act like I dress nice all the time. Like
Well,
I love it.
it is huge, and even like another tip, like because of for your energy and your presence, in yoga, there's like a standing asana. We just put our hands up, or some people will sit like the Superman, right? If you're feeling like a little insecure or not confident, and you put your hands up, and you open your heart, and you just take up space. That to me, it does a very similar thing to dressing up and taking care of your physical appearance. And that vibe will compound, the room and the other people around you.
Yeah,
There's
and
definitely a change, though. This leads into something else that I really wanted to touch on before we wrap. Is generationally, things definitely have gotten more lax societally, as far as even in church. There was a time where you would never see kids wearing shorts to church or something like that, or people would always be so dressed up. Back in the day, you just walk into work, everyone wore hats. I mean, this is really a ways back. Um, like probably before your YouTube like time or your like IG time, there used to be like these Walmart. They weren't like viral. They were viral. I think they were almost more emailed. Like, this is like the Walmart shopper, and it was this kind of crude like thing where like, oh, this is how people like dress at Walmart. Can you believe like they're trying to fit into this or wear this? And now I feel like that's the norm. It's just like Crocs, sweatpants, like going out. People are just not even putting much of an effort into it at all. And there's a balance. Those aesthetics aren't really the most important thing. It's what's inside. But like you guys were saying, it's showing that it's being planning and being well, like, I really care about what I'm going to do, so I'm going to prepare for it. It's also goes to like wear pajamas like outside and then come home with like the filth of like the world and still stay in those clothes. So that's generational thing. Every generation complains about their preceding generation. How do people react to you when you in your peer group, or maybe people that haven't seen you in a while? You're wearing a blazer, you're wearing some nice leather shoes, you're talking about having all these goals and starting a business company. Are you an outlier, or is it everyone's doing that? Where are we at with the 20 somethings? Is everyone, playing Call of Duty and just like, eating edibles, or is like everyone like online trying to, be the next Musk? Like, which of those broad generalizations do you think are true? What are you concerned about, or are you hopeful? Where are we at?
do you mean for my generation?
Yeah, Gen Z.
Gen
As a
Z.
Gen Z rep, can you tell us all about what's going on? I mean, obviously, we can't make for, there's going to be people on both ends of the spectrum, but are you generally hopeful, or are you a little bit, concerned?
Man, that's a really good question. I love that question so much. Let me think about that. Let me think about that. Okay, I think, okay, to answer your question about my peers and how they think if they see me trying to
Yeah, it was a multi-layered, so if you want to hit that first.
hit that first. I had to cut out a lot of friends I grew up with, and I've had to do it twice, and I still love them, and if they come in town, we'll meet up and we'll joke around, but at the end of the day, I had to cut some people out. And some of them were like temporary, but for the most part, to be the best version of myself, I had to move. I had to move multiple times, live in different places, and just stop hanging out with people. I had to learn how to say no, and I'm still learning how to say no. Um, so to answer your question, though, I mean, it's so great when you can meet someone that's at your same level and who just wants to get better. And because I've had to cut out some really close people in my life, I feel like I was just talking about this energetically. I'm ready to manifest and attract more male, guys just like me. And I just became friends with a really great guy here in Las Vegas we have the same energy, and we're kind of starting this coaching thing together. And it just feels so good when you just like have someone that's at your level who will say, dude, you're looking fresh, bro. That blazer, you look successful, man. So when I see those old people though, it's just like, I don't know, it's just kind of like no one it's like they it's like just unspoken energy. Sometimes they just won't acknowledge it, and it's just kind of weird. It's just not the same. It's not the same, and it never kind of will be, in my opinion. So I don't know. To answer your question, I had to cut some people off, and I don't really see them anymore. So it's like I don't know. I haven't experienced it that much, but anyways, and then to be hopeful or concerned about this generation, I don't know. Brian and Tara, I'm in my own little bubble. Like, I married my wonderful wife, and we live in this nice house, and we both work from home. And I just leave to either go to my sister's office and mix it up, or go to the gym, go work out outside, and occasionally, like, see some friends, and then we go out for date night every week. So it's like I'm in my own little bubble at the end of the day, and I'm kind of scared to really know what goes on because I'll see Gen Zs at the gym, and man, everybody like vapes and smokes stuff, and it's in public. Like, I remember when we went out to vote, and I'm like, dang, like I haven't been, or we go to casino because it's Las Vegas and we want to go to the movies or something. Holy people, some people are not doing well, man. Everybody my age, they're vaping, like just out in public, doing drugs. And I know edibles are really big right now. They're so big, and I'm just not used to it. Like, I'll go into the barbershop and just hear people talking about it, which ones they like the most. I'm like, dang, like I feel like I'm really protective of my energy, and nowadays you can work from home if you do it right, you know. So I'm concerned and hopeful because I've also met some really great, like here's the thing with Gen Zs, there's 20-year-olds that have their own business and they're doing great. They're making a lot of money. Like, there are so many Gen Zs out there doing well and taking advantage of the opportunity to make money online. But then again, there's the other side of they're screwed. They're like, bro, they went to college and didn't really learn anything, and now they're going to be in the 9 to 5. Not that that's bad, but they're just going to be miserable, like, because they don't have any ambitions. So that's a tough question, Brian. That's a really good question. I don't know. I see both sides on like everything. I struggle to like really say pick one side, and I can't pick a side on that. It's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, what I heard was the optimism of that they have the option to do it, right? They can, like, they have the internet, right? Like, they do know how to use YouTube, and they do have the resources. So
Right.
for me, it's like you're attracting those people that want to know. So you don't have to go out and talk about law of attraction and energy. You don't have to go out and, like, knock on their door and be like, hey, do you want help? Like, it sounds like you're doing all the things that you need to do to attract them. Like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I do think that,
Right.
you're helping your generation, because you did say earlier something about hard work, and I was thinking Gen Z and hard work are not synonymous exactly. So but you have such a great balance of working hard, but also, like, enjoying your life. So this has
Mhm.
been so helpful. I have one question, and this might be harder because I feel like you're a fellow self lover of self
So
help books. But what can you suggest one for our audience or people to read at some point in their life? Maybe something that's been really inspirational for you. One, or if you have to, more than one, but at least one book.
yeah, great. Number one book, without a doubt, Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Have you guys
Ooh,
heard of it?
no, that I don't think I've read that.
That's why I love to recommend this book, because not a lot of people have heard about it, but it's, in my opinion, the best self-help book ever. I love it. It's all about small, simple daily disciplines compound into remarkable results. And it's similar to Atomic Habits, but it's just so interesting. It really dives deep into the power of doing small, simple daily disciplines, those things that are easy to do and easy not to do. And with time, they really pay off. And that's not the only thing it talks about, but it really goes into depth about it. And it is amazing. It's so good. It's so good. So that's my number one recommendation. I'll just give another one because I said that one quick, is The Magic of Thinking Big. The magic of thinking big is the reason why I manifested my wife 110%. Because the first thing it talks about is belief and how to build your belief. And if you have belief, like, the results, it can happen. It's so simple and it's so good. Like, oh my gosh, guys. And then I don't know, I could keep going. Maybe the third one would be what is it? What is it? It's Law of Attraction by Michael J. Lozier. Have you guys read that one?
I've
Heard
I've
about that
probably read a
one?
dozen ones, but I have not heard of that one.
Okay.
So, what sets it apart from other law of attractions, or off the top of your head, what inspired you to like that one the most?
Once again, I was blessed to have a built-in best friend and mentor at one point, and he recommended that I read this book. He was another one of the people who believed in me from the start and just made me feel good when I talked to him, which made me realize I got some more potential. And he invited me to read this book. What separates it from other law of attraction books? I am not going to act like I've read all the law of attraction books, but read a few. But I love how simple it is. It's short. It's not that big. It's very simple. It
Can you
just
give us
comes down to it has
sorry,
I'm sorry, what?
the author one more time?
Michael J. Lozier.
Lozier. Okay.
And the reason why I love it is because it simply taught me to ask yourself, so what do I want? And then making a list, reviewing it, and saying these types of affirmations. And I want to know your guys' opinion on this really quick. Affirmations, it says affirmations such as, like, I'm in the process of, I've decided, it feels great. I love seeing myself come closer and closer to blank, like fill in the blank. What's your guys' take on affirmations that people say to themselves, but they may not be true? Like, what I mean by that is, if I'm standing in the mirror and I'm like, I am a size small, I am thin, but really you're not. But your goal is to lose weight, but instead you say affirmations like, I'm in the process of losing weight. Are you guys, like, I don't know, if I assume you're into big affirmations, maybe. What's your guys' opinion on it? Because I talk to a lot of people.
Amazing question. So
Okay.
it can go either way. And my first thought was, you hit it spot on, like looking in the mirror and seeing how it feels. So first, what we do like to say them in present tense. but once we start to believe them more, right? So if you're saying like, I'm a size small, you might start out by looking and saying like, that doesn't feel right. Let me start out by, I want to be a size small. Okay, I can believe that. I do want that. So then like after each time you say it, see how you feel. And if it doesn't feel good, if it's something a little bit more personal, then keep doing that mirror work, right? Like, I'm enough, right? I'm worthy. Like, I'm strong. Like, if that brings tears, then there's emotion that needs to be released. So that could be a practice. So I would say to edit and assess them based on how you feel, and but just rote intellectualizing is not, in my opinion, isn't going to work. We needed like the whole mind body spirit connection in it, and so it can be morphed into a work in progress based on where you're at. Does that make sense?
No, I love that. And something I'm starting to apply, and I'd love to hear what you think about this, maybe Brian, or if you want to answer the other question, because I feel like you're full of wisdom, man. You hit me with that question, man. What do you guys think about feel in terms of like using all your senses maybe to become the best version of yourself, or try to like manifest a certain thing? What I mean by that is I'm Mormon and I'm not Catholic. My wife is Catholic, and Catholics use rosaries, the beads that you like can count your blessings.
Yeah.
And then anyway, I'm really fascinated by, because we just went to Austria, and there's a lot of like Catholic buildings there, and we got a bunch of rosaries for like her family, and she even got me one. I've never used one. And sometimes I'll kind of like visualize and like touch the beads, and I feel like my brain is like making a connection
Mm.
to that, and it just like are you guys big on like
No,
using?
I mean, like both of these things, there's so much here, right? Because we have the law of attraction episode. We have Tara has one of our courses does this affirmation mirror lesson. We had a standalone, just the two of us affirmation process. We had on the one episode Sufism, we talked about how they meditate in almost like a Catholic way. Tara, do you remember that? And Iman Shala was telling us how they have some kind of like token or something, and they'll say the same thing over again while like holding it. But it's so funny because I feel like one of the great things about having Hunter on and just getting in on the early parts of his journey and following him for everyone out there is you're so ready to come into all this stuff, and you're so skilled innately of just figuring it out without even any formal or classical training. Your intuition seems to really be leading you in the right directions. Because I was actually thinking about when you grabbed that. Anyone listening or watching is going to be like, that was staged. You had the earmuffs at the one point when we're like, what do you use for focus? And you're like, well, I have this one here. And it was
What
like,
else have I
obviously you're in a blazer, so you're not like going to the range or at the range. So that wasn't planned. You were legit using that for focus, which was awesome. But I was also thinking that even if it's not noise canceling or it doesn't, it's almost like the ritual of holding it. That's kind of the ritual of the rosary too. It's the ritual of putting it on. You feel it go over, even if it's actually not canceling out. I'm sure those they look really sophisticated, but it's almost like that feeling. Now I'm locking in. While I'm doing this, all right, I'm locking in now. It's part of that whole process. You get the feel on. And it's the same thing with the rosary and saying the sacraments or the prayer or whatever. That's how those old school Catholics that do that, that's how they lock in. Once they start to feel the beads, it's comforting. And there's definitely something to that. We did an episode on tapping and EFT, and there's definitely the mind-body connection, reminding yourself, and it almost starts the subconscious. It's like, all right, now this has to happen, right? It's kind of like pregame ritual. I mean, as an athlete, when you're getting ready for a run, right? If you have something that you wear, or there's certain exercises that, I used to have this bad thing with my like right foot. I mean, I'm nowhere near the runner you are. Better than Tara, but not where you're at. I read one somewhere where with your ankle, you kind of raise your foot and you try to do the letters of the alphabet to kind of like warm up that area. Even when I stopped having that issue with my foot, it was still something that kind of got me going. So I think there's a lot to the ritual part of the body and touching, and
And
that's super important.
yeah, and let me just say one more thing in relation to that. This is really interesting. Before I say it, is it mind, body, and what connection? Mind, you said mind, body, soul?
Mind, body, spirit. Like that's
I
Mind,
the
body, soul.
triad,
And
say
right?
spirit. Yeah, I say spirit.
spirit.
I think of spirit as more like the what's greater than us, the God factor, the universe source. So, but some people say soul. Depends on their, I guess, preference.
Okay, thank you, thank you. That's interesting because I wanted to go off of what Brian said. You when you do the alphabet for your ankle makes sense. You know, you
I'm
can like,
doing it right now.
oh yeah, it's a great physical therapy exercise.
I'm on
Thought I,
J.
I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist, so I would help people do that exercise. It's kind of funny, but so I noticed this. I don't like reading. I got through my whole entire high school career without reading one book. I just everyone gave me their answers. Everyone gave me their answers. Never read a book, so I hated reading. But then I got into self improvement. I'm like, dang, I like this. But I'll only read self improvement or like the Bible. What I noticed was this: in South America for 2 years, it was part of the ritual, the routine. You had to prepare yourself spiritually and read you had to do a personal study for 30 minutes to 1 hour. You had to. And I've always waken up so tired. I don't know why. And they drink this drink down there. It's the number one thing about Uruguay called yerba mate. Um, and it kind of looks like marijuana. And when I drink it in America, people are like, "What are you doing?" So I don't like walk out with it in public as much, but it's just like it's type of tea, and you put hot water in it and you drink it. And there's some that has like caffeine, and there's some that doesn't. And I would drink it every single morning pretty much for 2 years. And then the first thing I would do was read. And I noticed that my brain subconsciously, when it would taste the taste of mate, it made me feel extra spiritual and like I needed to read. So sometimes I'll find myself and I'll quit drinking the mate because I get lazy and it takes 5 minutes to prep, or I have to like order it off a special website, whatever. And I find myself not reading as well. I'm like, wow, there's a mind, body, spirit connection here tied into this thing. So I feel like that's kind of a life hack so far for like everybody is if you want to do a habit, how can you make it more attractive, more easy? And how can you like link your brain to something so you subconsciously just know, I love Atomic Habits, how it talks about making your habits more satisfying, easier, attractive, and obvious, right? If you want to eat healthy and you go buy hundreds of dollars of fruit and you just shove the fruit in the back of your fridge, you're not going to eat it. But if you put it out right in front of your face next to your coffee machine and you see it every day and make it more obvious, you need to eat that, then you're going to do it. So that was just kind of what I was thinking when you were talking about the alphabet ankle routine before you like would work out or run.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely.
No, and
Yeah.
that's a great connection between the headphones and the rosary. If you have an altar, if you have a routine, every time you sit in a meditation chair, or every time you go to that one treadmill, it gets you out of your head, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is getting us out of our intellectual head when we're trying to do the deeper work. And then back to the law of attraction, the feeling of it. Like we want to encode that into our like physical body as opposed to just another thought in our conscious mind. We really just want to feel it. And that's why they say use all of your senses. Imagine where you are. It's a great time, like if you're working out or your adrenaline's high or you're in a happy mode, like that's a great time to visualize. That's a great time to say your affirmations because it just makes it more powerful and it seals it in.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. That's what Ed Milet talks about in his book, The Power of One More. It's getting into that flow state, right? Getting in that flow state. And I recognized myself last night. I couldn't sleep. I drank too much caffeine and I ate too much. We had this sushi. Like we eat really healthy during the week and we just had a bunch of sushi and we started eating some Oreos, but like we don't really do that. It's very rare. So I had like some sugar and I drank a Coke, extra Coke, and I'm like, I couldn't sleep. Moral of the story, let me get to it, is energetically, I wanted to write in my journal, right? I wanted to like write down the things I did today, a daily reflection. I try to journal it, once a day. And couldn't do it in the morning. But I felt like I wasn't in my flow. I felt just, I'm like, no, I can't dive deep. No wonder I can't, my brain's not working. I'm not writing well, is because I feel like I didn't access my flow from exactly what you said. Maybe it's working out. Maybe, honestly, as a young man, there's so many things that I'm identifying, learning about myself to get into my flow. And as a newly wedded young man, and trying to start a business, even just being productive can put you in the flow. Like, there's so many duties to do. Like, I'm sure, like taking out the trash, it's simple, but that's just like one more thing to do when you struggle to organize things. And then I like to meal prep for us, and then I help out keeping the kitchen clean. And then there's like making your bed, and then there's the discipline habits. And then it's, if I'm at the store dropping something off for my wife, it's just so many small things. And you guys are like, duh, that's life, bro. But it's like, when you have so many ambitions, it's like, if you don't stay on top of it and figure out a way to get into your flow or best self thing by doing something, you're screwed. Like, that time to get in your flow, whatever that means. If you're very intellectual, some people can read so much, maybe just work out, like whatever works for you. And my biggest takeaway from you guys so far is, Tara, what you said about feeling. Like, it kind of doesn't matter what affirmation you say, as long as it's generating that feeling. Just, it's so important to like just feel. Do whatever you have to do to feel. So
Yeah. And also, if you do say something and doesn't resonate, like compassion, like, okay, I'm not there yet. No problem. Let me go
I'm
on
not,
to the next thing. Not there yet.
that's like, I journaled last night and I titled it "I'm Not There Yet" with
Yeah.
something I'm trying to.
It can be
It's
that
crazy.
simple.
Nice.
Yeah.
So many things that you guys are saying, I'm like, I've been thinking that. And you asked me that question, I'm like, yeah, I had to sit in silence to get my mind right before I talk. Like, I can't just naturally get up on here. And I had the headphones. Kind of funny.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah, well, this has been a pleasure. Definitely love to do it again. Great connecting with you, meeting you. Excited to kind of see how the new year takes off for you as the year turns. So people are gonna like get a lot out of this. Some helpful tips, advice, strategies for making the change last. One of the things that we always try to preach is lasting change, or we try to guide people through is lasting change, right? Because you can go for a run today, but can I go for a run, in a month now and have gone 20 times, right? So that's like where the mind, body, and spirit is all needed to be together to kind of get you in sync. So where can people kind of connect with you, find out more? What's the best socials? What's website, and what will they expect when they get there?
Yeah, you can just go on to my Instagram. Us Gen Zs, we love Instagram. We love it. That's what we grew up with. I need to do more LinkedIn and Facebook, all this stuff. But Instagram right now is the best. And it's just my first and last name. So Hunter Chynoweth. And my last name is Chynoweth. It's a long one, but you can kind of think of Kristen Chenoweth. I always joke and say she's like my aunt. But yeah, once you go to my Instagram, there's, bestselfweekly.com. You can go to, and then like the business account that I'm using is Best Self Academy. But just go to my Instagram, Hunter Chynoweth, and all the info will be there. If you have any questions about anything, happy to talk about anything with you. Just send me a DM, and I'm always responding. I use it every single day. So yeah, whatever. I just really help people be the best versions of themselves. It's very aligned with what you guys do. And I do that just by teaching specific mindset strategies and tools that require action, right? So it's not just like a bunch of just self-improvement stuff. It's everything requires action, because I truly believe that we have to take action to become that best version of ourselves. But yeah, that's
And you're doing it by example. So thank you so much for showing the way, especially for your generation. You're an inspiration and a role model. I'm so excited to see what this year brings for you, Hunter. Thank you so
thank
much.
you. Before I go, can you guys give me some life advice? If you were in my situation in today's world, 24 years old, to be my best self, anything you tell a younger person like me. You guys are young, but like a younger
Oh,
person.
thanks. Nicely said. Yeah, I mean, I'll go first, and say, and I'll start abstract. I will say, like, shoot for the stars. Like, make your law of attraction list, like, bigger than your wildest dreams. Like, does, I usually have two manifestation lists, like one that's like, 3 to 6 months, maybe a year, but then there's like the one that's like, oh, come
Mhm.
on, like, am I really gonna have that mansion in Scotland or Ireland? Like, I don't know, but like, think big, because if it's amazing, like, how much how quick you could shorten that really far-reaching thing. If you're 24, like, forget it, you're golden. So I would say Ryan might give you something a little more practical, but mine is like, shoot for the stars, like the most far out crazy thing you never thought you might be able to reach. Maybe it won't come for 10, 20 years, but just play with it now.
Okay, I love that. Shoot for the stars.
Yeah.
And okay, I wrote all that down. I'm gonna apply that. Thank you.
For me, I guess I would say that it goes fast. So, taking one of your quotes that I saw you post, knowledge without action is useless or kind of worthless, right? So,
Mm.
um, act now. Like, why wait? Like, it kind of goes with shooting for the stars. Like, get it now. You're not. We are in a society where there's a lot of older people kind of saying, "Wait your turn." Just imagine if you take get to those stars earlier, the possibilities can be amazing in 10, 20, 30 years, right? So if you're starting to build now and you stick with it, people think, I don't have to, I can have fun now. My 20s, whatever, I can wait till I'm 30, whatever, 40. But if you do it now, what I would tell myself back when I was 24 would be, why wait? Just go for it like right now. And then when you can maybe put it in cruise control in the future, kind of reverse it. If I would say that if you put the time in now, forget about the YOLO and anything else that you see, fake Instagram accounts that people are doing whatever in Vegas. I mean, the fact that you're living in Vegas is like the ultimate test case on your discipline ideology, right? Because it's Sin City. But I would say go for it now and think you have such a head start on everyone else because you have vision. I mean, things are going to change, but I would say stick with it too. Head start on everyone. So I think that's great. Utilize that.
And listen
Thank
to your
you so
wife.
much.
Yeah,
Listen
Listen
for
to
to
my
your
wife.
sure.
No,
wife. When in
num-
doubt, listen.
one thing I've learned is happy wife, happy life. And then
Yes, sir.
the first year, the second year, what I learned was happier wife, happier life.
You're
It's
getting
so
it. You're
true.
getting it. Stick with it. No,
Yeah,
you're gonna be golden, Hunter. I'm
thank
really
you.
excited for you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
and,
you.
and, and like, I guess another thing that I would say is be careful about like living the online world and then the real world, and then also like the spiritual world. Always know yourself because I feel like there's temptation to be like, oh, this all there is, right? But then when you go out and meet people, it's kind of different than what's going on online. So I think that kids, even younger than Gen Z, the one thing that I worry about is them not even understanding what regular people are in the real world. You went to a place where you met people that never even had Instagram, right? But kids, if they're online all the time and that's all they're doing is TikTok and Instagram and Discord, they can't even like understand those like relationships without, the digital, chatting and connection. So I don't think that's necessarily going to be an issue for you, but I would just say like, keep your foot in the physical world as well.
Keep it in the physical world. Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
something I'm feeling. And I like the physical world. I like the like, I don't know the word, the physical connection, the one-on-one in-person connection I was going for. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for that advice. You too. I
Awesome.
wrote.
Thank you, Hunter. It was great meeting you.
Awesome. Great meeting you too. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. We appreciate you being part of this community. For more resources, insights, and ways to connect, head over to youroneself.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Overcast. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep aligning your mind, body, and spirit, and peace, love, and self-discovery.